They thought they were in control, 2 officers pulling over, a lone driver ready to throw their weight around. But what they didn't know was that the woman behind the wheel wasn't just any driver. She was, in fact, their incoming superior, the newly appointed chief of police. And this encounter was about to reshape their understanding of authority. Cassandra Monroe was a woman forged by perseverance, her journey carved through years of relentless dedication and silent resilience. Today signified a pivotal moment, her inaugural day as the police chief in the city of Red Hollow. It was a role she had earned against all odds, in a system that rarely opened its gates to someone who looked like her. As she navigated the 2-lane road into the heart of the city, the morning light spilled softly across the dashboard. Her fingers clutched the steering wheel with quiet resolve. What should have felt like triumph instead came weighted with apprehension. Red Hollow had a reputation, its law enforcement culture steeped in tradition, resistant to change, and shadowed by claims of racial prejudice. Cassandra had combed through internal reviews and whispered testimonies. She was aware that many within the department weren't pleased that a black woman would be taking command. Still, retreat was never part of her nature. Approaching an intersection where the light blinked yellow, blue strobes suddenly danced in her mirror. A squad car tailgated her, siren wailing. Her instincts sharpened. This wasn't chance. Easing onto the shoulder, tires softly crackling over the gravel, she came to a stop. 2 white officers emerged. The older one, grizzled, bulky, mid-50s, advanced with studied confidence. His younger partner, perhaps early 30s, mirrored his movement, but with far more hostility in his posture. Cassandra rolled down her window, heartbeat calm, but guarded. The senior officer leaned down, surveying the interior briefly before demanding, "License and registration," in a tone too polished to be polite. Without speaking, she reached for her glove box, retrieving the requested documents with mechanical precision. Experience had taught her that silence often diffused unnecessary escalation. As she handed them over, the officer's brow creased, though he remained quiet. The younger one, however, was less restrained. "What brings you around here?" he questioned, voice coated in insinuation. "Not the kind of area you want to be hanging around, if you catch my drift." The insult didn't go unnoticed, but Cassandra didn't flinch. "I'm headed to work," she replied evenly. "And where would that be?" the officer asked, inching closer, a smug grin playing on his lips. He thought he had her figured out. Cassandra paused, considering whether to disclose her identity now and shut it all down. But a deeper instinct urged restraint. She had encountered this scenario more times than she cared to count. The balance of power tilted heavily, and she wasn't about to let her first moments in command be marked by confrontation. "You'll find out soon enough," she said quietly, her gaze steady. She spoke without malice, but the message was unmistakable. She wasn't to be toyed with. The senior officer, picking up on the tension, interjected. "Let's not complicate things, ma'am. We can escalate this if necessary." And there it was. The thinly veiled threat, the institutional edge of control. Cassandra's patience waned. She'd weathered this exact brand of veiled contempt too many times. Dismissiveness, presumptions painted over skin tone, a lifetime of subtle wars. She had climbed every rung of a ladder designed to exclude her, and she wasn't about to let this pass unchallenged. With a controlled breath and unwavering voice, she replied, "That won't be necessary. I'm Chief Cassandra Monroe, and I strongly suggest you reconsider your approach." The atmosphere shifted instantly, like a storm rolling in. Both officers stiffened. The older one squinted, brows knitting as the gravity of the situation landed hard. The younger officer's arrogant smirk dissolved into wide-eyed disbelief and rising dread. "You're the chief?" the older one muttered, clearly blindsided. "That's right," Cassandra replied firmly. "I'd like a clear explanation for why I was pulled over and subjected to this interrogation." Silence fell over them. The younger officer stumbled over his words, desperately trying to justify the situation, but it was too late. The balance of power had flipped, and they felt it. The senior officer coughed awkwardly, struggling to regain control. "This might have been a mix-up." "No," Cassandra cut in, her voice sharp and resolute. "This isn't confusion. This is exactly the issue. You stop people like me without cause, make judgments, and assert your authority where it doesn't belong because you assume there'll be no consequences. The older officer opened his mouth, then closed it again, unable to argue. She was calm, unwavering, and her very presence exposed everything wrong with how they'd acted. This, she continued, locking eyes with them, is the reason people don't trust law enforcement. It's officers like you who damage the system from the inside out, and it's leaders like me who are here to fix that. Both men remained frozen, their faces pale, drenched in the realization that the rules had changed. Cassandra stepped out of her car, her posture commanding. From this point forward, you report directly to me. Every single stop you conduct will be reviewed by my office. So I recommend you reflect carefully on how you carry out your duties. The older officer finally managed to speak. We didn't intend any disrespect. It won't happen again. Cassandra gave a curt nod, knowing the promise was hollow. It would happen again, not necessarily with them, but with others. And that was why she had accepted this role. She was there to confront the deep systemic bias that had infected Red Hollow's police force for far too long. See that it doesn't, she said softly before returning to her vehicle. As the city blurred past her window, she exhaled slowly. She had claimed one victory, but it was only a small part of a much larger war. Being chief wasn't about a badge or a title. It was about responsibility. A duty to ensure that no one else had to endure what she just had. That afternoon, Cassandra stood before the full department in their first briefing under her command. The room buzzed with tension as she recounted the morning's events without omitting a single detail. This isn't about shaming anyone, she began, her tone firm. But I need you all to understand. This behavior ends today. Every member of this department will be held accountable for how they treat the residents of Red Hollow, no matter their appearance, background, or beliefs. A ripple of discomfort passed through the group. Some avoided eye contact. Others shifted in their seats. But Cassandra didn't blink. She had spent her life standing up to inequality, and this was no different. This is your opportunity to show what kind of officer you truly are, she continued. But be warned. I won't tolerate prejudice. I won't tolerate arrogance. And I certainly won't tolerate anyone who believes they are above the law. Her words lingered in the still air. A few officers gave small, respectful nods. Others remained unmoved. Cassandra took mental note, but ultimately, it didn't matter who was ready. She was. In the days that followed, word of the traffic stop spread like wildfire through the city. For many residents, it was a sign that a long-overdue transformation was finally beginning. For some in the department, it served as a wake-up call. News outlets picked up the story, and soon, Cassandra became a symbol of needed reform. Someone unafraid to confront injustice head-on. But Cassandra knew this wasn't the end. Every move she made would be watched, every decision dissected. And yet, she had no intention of backing down. She hadn't spent 2 decades climbing through fire just to go quiet now. The battle for change had only just begun. But as she left those 2 stunned officers behind that morning, there was one undeniable truth resonating inside her. She was exactly where she was meant to be.